Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Hope you had a great weekend, work week off to a good start. Casey Gaines and Jacob Beck back there on the ones and twos with you for 2 hours. Shea Dixon going to be with us in 30 minutes. Transfer portal in college football starting to materialize post-spring. Where is LSU looking, and when might we expect some news on that front? Shea will join us in 30 minutes. Going to chat with Mark Effridge of D1 Baseball, part of the SEC Extra package over there. He'll be with us at 2 o'clock talking all things SEC baseball. LSU basketball added another transfer. We'll get to that later on in this hour, but we start with LSU and Auburn on the Plains. And for the first time in, I guess there's 4 non-conference weekends, and they've played 8, so 12 weekends. LSU loses a weekend series. Auburn takes 2 of 3. And honestly, as I'm sitting there watching on Sunday and it all kind of falls apart, thankfully I was doing so from a friend's swimming pool with the beverage in my hand, so it was a little more palatable to watch LSU just implode. I'm sitting there going, the odds are that LSU's not going to win the national championship. They've got as good a chance as anybody, and they certainly could. But the odds are that they won't do it. And when that day comes, that this season comes to an end, I felt like I was watching the rehearsal for that over the last 2 days. I don't believe that this offense is going to go in the deep freeze for a 2-day stretch. That happened to the 13 team and cavernous, TD Ameritrade at the time, and they couldn't score, and the offense went in the deep freeze for 2 days. I don't think that's going to happen to this team. They may struggle to get the hit, which they did on Saturday, but I don't think that they're going to just fall apart. So this was kind of that way on Saturday. You had the bases loaded in the third inning and couldn't cash in. Just got the one run. Then you had the bases loaded again in the next inning, in the fourth, and couldn't put a run across. And then you had a couple on in the sixth and couldn't get the hit. You were creating traffic. You were creating base running opportunities. You just weren't delivering the big hit. That's the more likely scenario for me with this team. It's not that some pitcher just starts mowing them down and they get shut out. It's that they're not able to get the hit when they get runners on base. I'll tell you this, because some people will suggest, and I just saw something in the Bayou for chat and had some buddies, they leave too many runners on base. You know who leaves runners on base a lot? Good offenses. You know who does not leave a lot of runners on base? Bad offenses, because they don't create base runners. LSU's a good offense. You can't score every time you get a couple of hits, and LSU gets a couple of hits a lot. And you can't work on clutch hitting. It's not a thing. It's a descriptor that we use for a big hit or lack thereof. You can't work on it. You're either a good hitter or you're not. And LSU has a lot of good hitters, and they create a lot of traffic, but didn't quite get it done. That's the offensive side of the equation that let them down a little bit. And then the bigger portion of this is the pitching just imploded. What you watched in the first inning on Sunday, assuming you got to your chair in time, you could have missed it. But if you were watching on Sunday, that would have been a very poor effort from a 9-year-old pitching staff. For the number one team in the country, it was an embarrassment. You can't walk 6 guys before you record an out. Not give up 6 base runners. You walked 6 guys before you got an out. That is almost impossible. And they weren't even competitive competitive pitches. Alex Milazzo was doing gymnastics behind home plate trying to block these balls. They were not even close. Not like missing the corner. Like Ty Floyd walked a run in on Saturday and missed the corner by 1.5 inches. That's a competitive pitch. That's a nice take. Unfortunate, you walked a run in. These were bouncing. Christian Little was hooking them. Griffin Herring was leaving it up. It was not competitive. And that's the issue you run into when you don't have innings eaters after Skeens. You're relying on a lot of people to have their stuff. And over the weekend, out of the bullpen, there was some good work. Riley Cooper was pretty good. Thatcher Hurd was excellent. Gavin Guidry was pretty good. Like, there were some guys in the bullpen that threw it pretty well over the weekend. But you had a couple of guys that were bad, and it was so bad that you were done before you even started on Sunday. You got off to a pretty good start with Gavin Dugas hitting the leadoff homer, and then your pitching staff just imploded. And that's likely the death knell for this team. I don't believe that what happened over the weekend was some fatal flaw that LSU cannot overcome. Most teams in college baseball are struggling to pitch it. We talked about this last week. Is LSU's pitching a concern? Yes. Does it eliminate them from contention of being a top 8 seed, of advancing through a regional, a super regional, getting to Omaha, and winning the entire thing? It does not prevent them from having that possibility. They're going to have to hit to win. Every once in a while, you can get one of the Skeens games that you got on Friday, but they're going to need to score to win games. And most teams are in that boat. There are not a lot of 4-2 games being played in college baseball. There just aren't. And LSU just let it get away. As of the third inning on Saturday, this was just going exactly according to plan. Skeens dominates. We'll talk about that in a second. You get nice bullpen work on the back end on Friday. You win the ball game. You win. That's the motto for this team, right? Win behind Skeens and then split the other 2. That gets you through every weekend, right? And you won behind Skeens. Okay, we got to split. Well, you get off to a nice start on Saturday. At a point, I was thinking it was danger zone for Auburn because LSU's got a win in their back pocket from Friday. They're up 1-0 in the third inning. To that point, into the third inning on Saturday, LSU's pitchers had thrown 11 shutout innings with 23 strikeouts and 1 walk. And oh, by the way, the bases were loaded with nobody out for Cruz and White coming up. At that point, the weekend this is looking really good. We're about to hang a 3 spot here, maybe more. You're going to take control of game 2, take control of the weekend. And it just didn't happen. And then you get the balk on Floyd, and you get the ejection, and then Ty, who was dialed in, just lost it. Just totally lost his command. He had struck out 7 in a row, using the breaking ball effectively, painting with the fastball, but then it was gone. He issued the 3 walks. He balked. He threw a wild pitch. The command was toast. And LSU never really recovered from that all weekend. There's a lot more I want to talk about, but there's one thing that I think people will allude to when they look at this weekend, because I think most people understand that losing a weekend is not the end of the world. It took you 4 months, but you finally lost one. And there are some that would suggest that maybe LSU now has shed the mantle of wire-to-wire number 1. They don't have to play with that pressure come June. That's what buckled Tennessee last year. They took over the number 1 spot early on, and they played with that pressure. I don't know if I buy into that. LSU's going to play under some pressure in June no matter what. It's LSU. You're as big a brand as there is in college baseball. You're perceived to have the top 2 picks in the draft. You're supposed to be the best team in the country. They're going to know that when they take the field in June no matter what, and so does the other team. I don't know. Personally, if you're asking me whether or not I'd like them to lose this weekend, ditch the number 1 ranking and move forward after that, or would I rather Christian Little go out there and throw 6 shutout innings, strike out 9 yesterday, and LSU win at 9-2, I'll take that one. I'll be honest. I will take that one. But they are unanimous number 2. Wake Forest just moved ahead of them for the week because they lost, and if that frees them up, we'll see. I think one thing that'll free you up is when you get Mississippi State coming into town, because they are atrocious. I was listening to a Mississippi State podcast this morning, and not great times in Starkville at the moment, but we'll talk about that at a different time. But LSU, they're going to be able to, I guess, free themselves up from that number 1 ranking. I just don't read much into that. I think I'd rather them play well, and they didn't play very well over the weekend. They pitched it very, very poorly. Their command was very, very poor for the majority of the weekend, and they didn't get the big hits, and they got so far behind on Sunday that it was just a cakewalk for Auburn. I mean, Herbert Holtz has been very, very average for them, and he gets through 5 innings, just allows 1 earned run, and LSU just couldn't muster much. But there was some good stuff over the weekend that I want to talk about, and there was a couple of other things that maybe concerned me a little bit about where things were with LSU and Auburn. Those were kind of my feelings on the weekend. We'll get to more of the empty the notebook portion of this, where I want to talk about Paul Skeens. I want to talk about Thatcher Hurd. I want to talk about Javen Coleman. I want to talk about Tommy White. There are lots of other things that went on over the weekend that weren't necessarily big picture things, but things that I noticed over the weekend. So we'll take a time out to stay on time. When we come back, we'll get to more of LSU and Auburn. It's on Palmer Show.
This is on Palmer. Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done, or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
Tuesday's OTB. LSU looking to bounce back in the midweek. Plus, latest from the NBA playoffs, as well as a little LSU football. Also, we got Nick Underhill coming on to talk Saints. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Shea Dixon on the transfer portal coming up in 15 minutes. Excited to chat with my guy Shay D from over there on the Bengal Tiger. But LSU Auburn, we're sticking with that here in the first couple of segments. I want to go back and talk about Paul Skeens, who was just named the SEC's Pitcher of the Week for good reason. He was as good as he's been on Friday. That was as good as he has pitched it in an LSU uniform. I thought he was sensational. And one of the things last week that I alluded to as to a potential way to help manage his pitch count, which had gotten elevated in his last few starts and didn't allow him to work as deep in the game as you want him to work, is he's got to go to the slider earlier as a kill pitch. Fastball is a great pitch and one that he leans on heavily, maybe too heavily at times, but it's one that they foul off a little bit and they work counts a little bit deeper. You throw that hammer up there and that may send him back to the dugout in a hurry. And he was working that slider. He had total control of it on Friday. He even threw to McMurray one time. He threw a 91-mile-an-hour changeup that McMurray swung and missed at as it dove down and away from him, going, this is just not fair. This is not fair for college guys to be dealing with a 100-mile-an-hour heater, 90-mile-an-hour changeup, darting towards into the right-hander on the arm side, the slider to the right-handers. It was sensational, and Skeens was able to get an out in the 8th inning, and he only threw 110 pitches, which is not overly taxing for a guy that big, that strong at this point of the season. So that was really, really good that Skeens was able to work that deep into the game. And if he can command that breaking ball, this makes him a different guy. He's tough with just a 100-mile-an-hour heater. But if you're talking about being able to command the slider the way that he did, throw it for strikes and then throw it as a kill pitch, I don't know what hitters are going to do, but it probably looks a lot like it did on Friday when he went 7 1/3, 6 hits, no runs, 15 strikeouts, and just 1 walk. That's the other thing about Skeens is that he's in a sport where guys are really struggling to throw strikes. They've tightened the zone up a little bit, and a lot of guys are struggling with it. He never goes out there and walks anybody. It's 0 or 1 walks just about every week. He was fantastic in the game. And Thatcher Hurd came in the ninth and was perfect. He threw 11 pitches, 9 were for strikes. He got 2 strikeouts, and then the one ground out he got was a perfectly executed 0-2 slider just off the plate, and the guy tapped to shortstop for the last out of the game. Hurd was great. He's been great in his last couple of outings. And so I think the initial knee-jerk reaction would be, oh, well, Little's struggling. Put Hurd back in there as a starter. Hold on. They just got him moving in the right direction. We found a little bit of a role for him. He's being used in high-leverage spots out of the bullpen. He's comfortable there. I'm not in a hurry to go ahead and shuffle the deck again. I know that LSU is in search of defined roles for pitchers, but the fact of the matter is you've got an ace at the top of your rotation. You've got a number 2 starter who's going out there and been okay, and then you've got a bunch of guys who are just going to have to go out there when they're called upon. And if he needs to go out there to get the last 3 outs of a close Friday game, he can. If they haven't used him and they want to go to him for a couple innings to start a Sunday game, they can. But you're not – I don't want to just immediately try to cram him into a spot right as he's starting to find it. Just let's not change things up too drastically. Just keep getting him out there and can hope that he continues to throw the ball the way that he has his last 3 times out, because he's been very, very good in those last 3 outings. You're dealing with about 9 innings of work there, and he's really looking good. The fastball velocity has been there the whole time. It's really command of that, and then being able to use the breaking ball, and he was dialed for sure on Friday. So that was very, very encouraging to me. I was a little bit concerned with Javen Coleman's velocity. You never know with the radar guns, who's using TrackMan, who's got the old radar gun, what exactly the reading is. But he had been 93 to 95 a lot in his first couple outings back, and it was more 87, 88 in the game over the weekend. So I'm not like terrified or, obviously I don't think he's like hurt. Maybe it was just one of those days. Maybe it was a different gun. Maybe, who knows? But I'm curious to see next time Javen Coleman gets out there what the radar gun says, because he was really effective at 94, 95. And if you look at his stat line from the game on Saturday, he gave up 2 runs in that inning that he worked, and he had a couple walks as well. So I'm just curious to see if there's a little bit of fatigue there, maybe just one of those days. I'm curious next time Javen Coleman gets out there on the mound. And one thing offensively that I saw that I really liked over the weekend was Tommy White got 4 hits on Saturday, and they were all to the pull side. We know how well Tommy White hits the ball the other way, and I don't ever really want to tell a guy you need to pull the ball more. But if you're sitting here and he's got, 16, 17 home runs at this point, and all but 2 of them are to the opposite field, and he drives the ball the other way so often, guys are going to start busting you in. They're not going to let you get your arms extended and drive the ball the way you're comfortable the other way. You've got to be able to cover both sides of the plate. And Tommy White certainly doing that. He's hitting 370-something, so he's covering the plate just fine. But to put that on tape and to do that the way that he did, ripping the ball through the left side, putting the left center field gap, hitting the ball to the pull side the way he did on Saturday, just makes him a tougher out, because you can't go in with a distinct game plan of, hey, I'm not going to let this guy get his arms extended out over the outer third of the plate. We're just going to bust him in with hard stuff and throw the fastball, and that didn't work on Saturday. So I'm fired up about the way that Tommy White swung the bat over the weekend. The truth of the matter is you're just not going to get a lot of 2 for 12s for Dylan Cruz. You're not going to get a lot of 1 for 12s from Jordan Thompson. They just weren't awesome offensively. They won a game where they scored 3 runs. They left an Army on base in the 6-run game on Saturday, and then on Sunday they got behind, and it just never really worked out in Sunday's game, and you end up getting beat and only scoring 2 runs. So, look, it's bound to happen. You're just not generally going to play 14 weekends and win them all. Arkansas did it 2 years ago, and then they went and won the SEC tournament. That's incredibly impressive to run through an entire schedule and not get beat. But the fact of the matter is, usually you do. Tennessee last year just got beat by Kentucky. They played a Kentucky team that wasn't all that good, and Kentucky ended up beating them 2 out of 3. I mean, the LSU team in 2009 lost to the last place team in the SEC. They lost a weekend to Kansas as well. It's like you don't always have it, and they didn't have it over the weekend. I don't think it's some sort of indictment on the team. I don't think they're hitting a rough patch. I think they just found a weekend where it didn't work out for them. And there was some good. I love Skeens. I loved Hurd. I thought Gavin Guidry was pretty good. I thought Riley Cooper threw it pretty good. I loved the way Tommy White swung the bat. I saw Travinsky homered again. Jared Jones crushed a couple line drives over the weekend that was good to see. It just didn't fire on all cylinders. And like I said at the top of the show, it feels like that was a preview to when this thing eventually ends in the postseason, whether it's in a regional, super, or in Omaha. But it still doesn't change the fact that you're in a pretty good spot every single weekend when you can go out there behind Skeens and get a win, and then all you got to do is get it done one more time. Doesn't promise that you're going to do it. Just stacks the odds in your favor, and usually LSU's offense will flex and they'll crush somebody and put it away. They couldn't do it with runners on base on Saturday, and then on Sunday just didn't give yourself a chance on the mound. So the Tigers do lose, but it was a wild weekend in the SEC, a lot of interesting results. I want to talk with Mark Etheridge from D1 Baseball about that at the top of hour number 2, and I'll have my thoughts on where things sit at the moment. But right now for LSU, just regardless of what the situation is in the conference and what you've got to do to win the league or get the 1 seed and all that kind of stuff, as far as the postseason goes, LSU right now sits at 16-7. You're 3 wins away, in my opinion, from locking up a top 8 seed. You've got 3 coming against last place Mississippi State at home this weekend, and then you got 3 in Athens. I think all you got to do is win 3 of those 6, and that'll put you at home through the regionals and super regionals. And that's all you can ask. All this 56 games, which will be 55 for LSU, all this 55 games is to put you in position to play at home. You can be the 8 seed, 7 seed, 6 seed, 5 seed, 4 seed, 3 seed, 2 seed, 1 seed. Any of those seeds, they're all the same to me. Just get one of them, and I think LSU is still just 3 wins shy of that. I don't think they've locked anything up at the moment, but they're in very, very good spot. The RPI didn't really take a hit. You just dropped 2 spots. You're still in the top 5 in the RPI, and you've got 16 conference wins. I think having lost, I always say lost. It's not what I want to say. Having not played one of the South Carolina games, you understand that your math's a little bit off there, but I think 19-10 is enough to get LSU a top 8 national seed. So you just got to take care of business and win half your next 6, and you go to Hoover with a free week to play with. You can do kind of whatever you want with your pitching staff, get guys at bats, rest some guys if they're banged up, and then you play the games that really matter come June. But disappointing to lose a weekend, but got as good an opportunity as you can have coming up this weekend because Mississippi State is really, really reeling. All right, we're going to take a time out. When we come back, Shea Dixon is going to join us. Shea is all over the transfer portal thing these days. It used to be that Shea's gig was just recruiting. Just deal with high school kids, and that's it. Well, that's not the case anymore. Your roster is built largely from colleges in some respect. So Shea and the crew over there at On3 are all over the transfer portal. I want to get Shea's thoughts on some visitors this past weekend, this coming weekend, positions of need, some names, and then where Brian Kelly could turn to add to this talented LSU football roster. Shea Dixon will join us next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is on Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I drove myself to the ER, had heart surgery, and drove myself home 24 hours later, feeling fine. Starting running again after the procedure, I'm getting excited thinking about it. I had no pain, nothing. I felt great. And right then and there, I was like, oh my God, I'm back. I'm back. It's just amazing.
Ochsner Health. Long live you.
What's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink.
Sandgrove join us for the Tuesday edition of Handy Time. Dwayne Colucci from the South Point and the Rampart in Las Vegas joins us. Handy Time, noon weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Mark Etheridge from D1 Baseball is going to be with us in 30 minutes talking all things SEC baseball. Mark does an awesome job, along with Joe Healy, who you hear from on the show on Thursdays with SEC Extra, part of the D1 Baseball squad. So excited to chat with Mark coming up here in 30 minutes. But very excited. Go out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Bring on our guy, Shay Dixon from the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 Network. Shay D, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Hunt?
Doing good. All right. I feel like we all kind of had our arms around the college football schedule as it pertained to recruiting and dead periods and coaches' spring evaluations, all that kind of stuff. And then I feel like the transfer portal kind of dumped it on its head. So where are we in the college football calendar right now as far as roster management goes?
Well, man, I think they have, 5 scholarships, something in that range open. I think one of those things is you look at guys who are on scholarships each year, right? Like Josh Williams, for instance, walked on, got a scholarship. Greg Clayton, others were on scholarship. Damian Ramos, the kicker last year, were on scholarship. So you've always got a little flexibility there. Obviously, I think Josh Williams is probably on a full-time scholarship by now, but I think they're in that, around 5 available scholarships, which after 2 portal windows opening and closing, and you take in double-digit guys already, and you don't have anyone else leaving for the portal, that's a lot of room to work with if you've got the guys you like.
So the rule is that if you're in the portal, you're free to go wherever you want, but you had to get in the portal as of a week ago. So now LSU kind of understands what they've got and what they can add. Are there any positions specifically that you know that the staff is targeting for the transfer portal right now?
Well, we know that they addressed corner and D-line very well. So they've taken 12 total transfers, 9 of them being at those positions, I believe. I think they took 5 D linemen and 4 corners. Then you've added an offensive lineman in Mason Lunsford. That makes 10. Aaron Anderson coming back from Alabama gives you 11. And then there'd be one more in there, Omar Spates, coming out of Oregon State, and the guy who's likely to start at middle linebacker, gives you 12. I don't think I'm missing anyone in there, but we see that they obviously touched up on linebacker, touched up at receiver where they were already deep, but you take a guy like Aaron Anderson, you never turn him away, helps you out maybe in the return game, got an extra O-lineman, even though they do return 5 O-linemen that got starts last year, a 6th guy in Marlon Martinez, but they need some more there in addition to the guys coming in as early enrollees, or I should say as true freshmen. None of them came in as early enrollees, so all 4 high school signees get here this summer. But the bulk of the attention went to corner and D-line. So I kind of feel like those positions are taken care of for me at this point. They offered some tight ends, never got one. So it's like, okay, are you moving forward with Mason Taylor and then a bunch of true freshmen, which it seems to be the direction right now? Do you need any more O-linemen, or do you feel good about what you got? I don't know your opinion there, Hunt, but safety. And they've offered some guys, and guys who just committed elsewhere or end up looking at other teams. But I've said it before, and I'm sure you have as well, beyond Major Burns and Greg Brooks, and whether you're moving Sage Ryan from nickel back to safety, you don't have anyone who's played in any games, at least meaningful reps, at the position. So they've got players, just not experienced ones if something happens to one of their starters.
All right, let's talk running back, as Logan Diggs is a guy that has garnered some attention down here in South Louisiana, Rummel product, been at Notre Dame for a couple of years, led them in rushes this past season. He's in the transfer portal. What do you know about his time frame and what we may expect there?
Yeah, so he went to Ole Miss the middle of last week. Now Ole Miss is bringing back Quinshon Judkins. They've got a freshman and coming in who's pretty talented. They had another guy on their roster who broke out and had a pretty good year last year as well, beyond Zach Evans. So I would be a little surprised if he ends up at Ole Miss. He went to South Carolina as well for a visit. Obviously, they could be shuffling up the running back room if a guy like Logan Diggs ends up going there. But I just turned back to LSU, and he's going to give them an official visit happening later in the week. But I just feel like the combination of already signing with Brian Kelly, trusting him to leave, Louisiana for a school like Notre Dame and going to play there, and then Kelly being back here certainly gives him some familiarity with the head coach, right? Then you've got Frank Wilson, a number of other people on staff who've recruited him hard now and spent time talking with him, talking with his family. I know it seems on paper, it does. On paper, it is a very deep running back room with a lot of names who are talented, 6 different guys. I just think that each guy you can point to has a little something that makes you go, whether it's that they're a true freshman or they're in with the team, this offseason, or they've been injured, whatever it might be, to where you look at Logan Diggs and you think, man, he brings something special. He catches it very well. He went over 1,000 all-purpose yards. He played well in big games, Hunt. So I think some people are a little surprised, like, why do you need a running back when you have 6? I think Logan Diggs could move right to the top of the pecking order if he can have a really good fall camp if he ends up coming to LSU.
Yeah, that was my next question. You kind of stole it there, but in your opinion, if Logan Diggs did come to LSU, barring injury, would you predict that he would lead the team in rushing?
I don't know, because that would be me counting out Josh Williams, and I know Noah Cain's been healthy the entire offseason. I still think Noah Cain's the guy who is one of your rotational backs, and I don't think anyone's going to run away with the carries. But there were times last year at the beginning of the year they wanted Armani Goodwin, it looked like, to be the starter. He gets hurt. Then Josh Williams ends up just being your bell cow, or at least your starter whenever he was healthy, just because he ran hard, he's reliable, trustworthy, wasn't putting the ball on the ground. Oh, man, it's a tough question. Maybe I bet this. I bet Noah Cain leads off fall camp first team because he was the only guy that was there in the spring that was a returning player. From there, I think it's a wide open competition. And Depends on where Emory's at. Depends on if Goodwin's healthy or not. But I'd say Josh Williams and maybe Diggs, if Diggs came here, would be the guys who would lead it in touches.
Louisiana Lafayette had some real impact transfers into the SEC last year. Of course, here you had Kyron Lacey and Mekhi Garner, and then you look over in Gainesville, Cyrus Torrance, who was just picked in the NFL draft. Trey Amos, a cornerback from over in Lafayette, is looking around in the transfer portal. What do you know about him?
Yeah, well, he's obviously got a connection to Billy Napier, right? So Florida's going to be a team that's going to get mentioned. I don't know if that means he'll wind up at Florida. I will say I think he's had like almost 20 offers come in since he hit the portal, which is just less than a week ago. So highly coveted. I would say that after he comes, I think he went on Friday to LSU. So spent some time at LSU on an unofficial visit, supposed to be coming back for an official visit, then went over to Alabama Sunday, and I think he's leaving today at some point from Alabama. So he's got two big options there. I don't know which way this one goes. For me, it's intriguing because a lot of these guys, especially who are guys who are older, he's got a couple years of eligibility left, but he spent 3 years at UL. I just wonder, like, what are you looking for? Like, are you looking for an instant starting spot? Are you looking to compete? Are you looking to be a potential rotation piece? Because LSU did bring in a lot of corners, and they'd love more competition, and they've got some freshmen there that are playing. But I don't know then what Bama's room looks like versus Florida's versus everybody else's that might be an option for him. So I'd put him behind Diggs. I think the chances of landing him compared to maybe a Keon Coleman, I would put Amos at number 2 in terms of the likelihood of it.
Keon Coleman's fascinating to me. For those that don't know who he is, he's a 6'4" wide receiver from Opelousas who ended up at Michigan State. And it just, again, speaks to the ridiculous amount of depth in this state that I've never heard of Keon Coleman, and he's from right down the road, and he led a Big Ten team in receiving last year. That's just what Louisiana does. What do you know about Coleman and what his process looks like?
There's a lot of guys that do this. Will Shepard has led Vandy in receiving for a bit now.
Yeah.
He's out of North Shore. So Keon Coleman was a guy who's playing 1A ball at Opelousas Catholic, and it was one of those situations. He had like 40-something offers coming out of high school. Like everybody had offered him, but he was in a class where LSU had taken Malik Neighbors, they had taken Brian Thomas, they had taken Chris Hilton, they had taken Jack Besh and put him at receiver, and then they went in Mississippi and they had the number 1 prospect in the state in Deion Smith. Obviously now it didn't work out with Deion Smith. Besh transfers to TCU. They've gone and gotten Aaron Anderson. They've gone and gotten Kyron Lacey. Now you wonder, where do they sit with going back and getting a guy like Coleman, who he signed with Michigan State. He wanted to play both basketball and football. He played a little basketball as a freshman, not much, obviously, on a pretty talented team there, but broke out this past year in football with, I think he had 800-something yards receiving, nearly double-digit touchdowns, if not more than that. So really good player, tall, 6'4", an athlete, above the rim player in high school basketball, and really just got by on pure athleticism and size on the football field. And now he's starting to round into a pretty good-looking player. So even more so than Amos, I wonder with a guy like Keon Coleman, if he's thinking, all right, I finished 5th or 6th in the Big Ten in receiving behind all these Ohio State guys and all that. Like, this is my money year. Can I go somewhere that's got a good quarterback where I can get the lion's share of the catches? And it's not something ridiculous to think about if you're transferring from Michigan State to another school. Hey, I'm in my potential money year here. How can I be featured, as much, if not more, as I was at Michigan State? I get real cloudy about that with the LSU receiver room because Malik Neighbors is wide receiver 1. I love Brian Thomas. I think Kyron Lacey's turned a huge corner. And then you've got a healthy Chris Hilton. You've got Landon Ivey out of back. You brought in Aaron Anderson. You signed one of the best receiving classes in the country, including Shelton Sampson, Kyle Parker, Jalen Brown coming out of Miami, a top 50 player. Like, I just feel like this, beyond Malik Neighbors, who went over 1,000 yards last year, like, a lot of guys are going to catch footballs in this offense. And then throw in Mason Taylor. I just don't see if a guy like Coleman views that as, hey, I'm going to be able to put up 1,000 yards this season, because I'm just not sure that they would throw the ball enough around to make that happen for just one person or two people.
When you consider all the names you just rattled off and that Deion Smith and Jack Bash were part of this program, like, it's just the amount of talent they've brought in at wide receiver over the last couple of years is frightening. That's going to be a really, really solid group. Shay, I was reading your stuff over at the Bengal Tiger over the last 10 days or so, and it appears, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from reading your stuff, LSU staff in this spring evaluation period took the first 48, 72 hours and did nothing but hammer Louisiana. Is that kind of what you gathered from what the staff is doing right now? I mean, obviously Brian Kelly is going to recruit nationally with his pedigree and with LSU's brand, but it sounds like they are really putting some time in Louisiana.
Yeah, and it's the smart move, right? Look, because per capita, I mean, Louisiana's up there at 1 or 2 in terms of putting out high-level FBS players, certainly NFL players, and then just beyond California, Texas, Georgia, Florida, which everybody recruits those 4 states, it's then Louisiana in terms of just putting out a pure number of prospects each year. So we've learned this. They've won national championships time and again and been in competition for the SEC West time and again, and the large bulk of the roster is built on Louisiana talent. Yes, you've got to go out and get a number of guys from out of state, but if you eval this state correctly, then you can come away with a lot of really good players. And I think what they did, I think they hit more than 120 schools in the first 2 days of being able to go out on the road and recruit. And that's when they stopped in at high schools. They talked with coaches about all the guys they have. They watched practice, and they hit pretty much every school in Louisiana. And I think that now this takes on an even more of a multi-layered approach or a multi-tiered approach of why you would do that. Of course, you want to show Louisiana high school coaches the love, the programs, put the attention there because you want to have your eye on the best players in the state. And yes, you're checking in on current commitments, your top targets. But then you're also getting a feel for the guys you might offer, which is always big. You're getting a feel for underclassmen, which has always happened. But you're also getting a relationship with the coaches and then the top players at every school because for the exact reasons we just talked about, what happens if Keon Coleman or Trey Amos or Logan Diggs, comes back around in the portal a couple of years later? Do you know those guys? Did you recruit them in high school? Even if you didn't offer them, were you present around their high school? And I think all of that's going to really matter going forward, especially when you're trying to bring these guys back home who leave the state. So it's an approach I agree with. And now they spent the past, week and a half recruiting nationally like they normally do.
Obviously, Brian Kelly inherited a tough spot with some of the top players in Louisiana his first recruiting cycle. They just weren't going to come to LSU for one reason or another. But this is going to be his first real full go at it. And if I look at the 1-3 rankings and look at the commitment prediction and all, it looks like top 7 or 8 guys in the state LSU's got a great chance with. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Last year, the top 10, as you noted, only 4 signed with LSU. It's a transition year. I get it. Look, Arch Manning, all these guys went to different places. But that's so far from the norm. It's very rare. Normally, LSU's either getting almost all of them, or losing 1 or 2, right, to Bama or, someone on the back end, Jordan Matthews last year in Tennessee, for instance. I then look at this year, and they've already locked up 4 of the top 10. And they're considered, as you just noted, to be the on-3 RPM leader, the prediction machine for the other 6. And that's such a far kind of cry from where they were at this time a year ago, which makes you feel like the program's a little bit more stable, obviously. They've got a good grip on recruiting. None of these kids just flooded out of state. In fact, the only one, Juwan Johnson, committed to Deion Sanders in Colorado and then decommitted after the spring game when he visited. So they've got a chance now to get the top 8 of the top 10, 9 of the top 10, potentially all of them. I mean, they're in the mix for all of them and certainly would take them, and offers are out there. So rebuilding that fence, or however you want to put it, putting a focus on Louisiana is definitely a big deal for them right now. And I think it's showing when you look at kind of the top 10, 12 players in the state. They've got offers out to all of them, and they're in the mix for all of them.
Transfer portal still rocking and rolling. Going to have camps coming up this summer. They'll have you covered over at the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 Network. Shea Dixon runs the show over there. We appreciate it, Shea D.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it, Hunt.
He is Shea Dixon from On3. Mark Etheridge is going to be with us in 15 minutes talking SEC baseball. I'll give you my thoughts on the SEC weekend that was. Ole Miss had a kid hit 4 home runs in a game. First time it's ever been done in an SEC game. We'll tell you about that. And a lot more coming up at the top of hour number 2. But when we come back, LSU basketball added to its roster for next year. I'll tell you who and at what position next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off new 22 Ram 1500 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come on, live Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down the
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that...
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. We're recapping Tigers, the LSU Auburn baseball series from the Plains. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Matt McMahon, LSU head basketball coach, who actually joined us on the show last week, continues to add to this roster for the upcoming 2023-2024 basketball season. And they added another commitment out of the transfer portal today. Hunter Dean is a 6'10", 235-pound forward from George Washington, originally from Mandeville, went to Lakeshore High, played in 3 different seasons at George Washington. Prior to George Washington was actually at Southern Miss, and played 11 games with the Golden Eagles. This is very simply just a depth piece that they have added in the post. Your key post players are going to be Will Baker, the transfer that you brought in from Nevada. He'll be your starting number 5 man. You feel pretty good about Jalen Reed and what he can give you. Derek Fountain certainly played well and played incredible in some spots for you this year. Hunter Dean's going to add some depth there. He's not going to be a starting player, I don't think, for LSU. I think he's a reserve at the 5 behind Will Baker. And he's going to be a little bit more defensive-minded. He's not going to be a perimeter-type player. Like, Will Baker is a skilled scorer at 6 feet 11 inches. Like, he can shoot the three. He's left-handed. He can put it on the floor. He's very, very talented and can score. Hunter Dean is a big who can move and is going to be kind of a presence. He's got 5 fouls to give you. He's a really high percentage shooting player because he only took 2 threes last year. Like, he is very simply a post player. Last year he appeared in 30 games for George Washington. He started 26 of them. He scored 8 points and grabbed 6 rebounds. He shot 64% from the floor, which is the 4th best field goal percentage season in the history of George Washington basketball with a minimum of 100 attempts. He scored in double figures 12 times, had 10 rebounds 3 different times, a pair of doubles. He is a big. Now, he's not a stiff. Like, I say this all the time. This is my early experience in college basketball. My dad would check me out of school, and we'd go to the Southland Conference Tournament, which was in Shreveport every year. And it would have, Stephen F. Austin and Nichols and McNeese and Northwestern and all those teams. And they would always have, like, some 7-footer. Like, all the teams would have one. And even me at age, 10 would be like, man, that guy is not good. Like, he's really tall, but he can't catch. He can't shoot. This is not the case at all with Hunter Dean. But he is, one-dimensional on offense. He's just going to – he's big. He can jump a little bit, and he's just going to shoot around the bucket. He's not going to stretch it out to 18 feet and shoot jump shots. He's not going to get into the pick and pop game like KJ Williams and knock down threes. He is purely an around the basket player. But he's tall. He's old, as Matt McMahon told us last year. Like, when they're putting this team together, they want old players. You're going to go recruit high school kids every year, but he wants old players. He said on the show that, look, San Diego State got to the final, and they were older than 4 NBA teams. Like, that's important to him. And you're talking about a guy that's well past his 21st birthday. He's probably 23 years old. That is physical, big, can jump, can move, and is going to set screens, help block shots, give 5 fouls. He's a decent free throw shooter, around 70%. So this is, again, not going to be an all-SEC player in Hunter Dean, but he is going to give you 5 fouls, and he is able to go in there and play some defense for Will Baker, who's not a great defensive player, is a good scorer, and is going to be your starting 5-man. But you're going to need some other guys to help protect the rim, to grab rebounds, to give fouls, to play defense, and Hunter Dean is that. So, look, 6'10" guys are hard to find. There just aren't that many 6'10" guys. You've got one here from Louisiana, and that's kind of been the theme of Matt McMahon's class that he's put together. You've got all these guys that have played in Louisiana. Carlos Stewart, Jalen Cook, Jordan Wright. You get the picture. Hunter Dean added in here. Like, these are guys that are from Louisiana and are coming back home to play. So Dean will be a guy they use off the bench as a big, as a reserve. And I think a fine add to the team. I think they needed some more size and some rim protection because the center that they got in Baker doesn't give them that. Dean does. So that's a nice position of need, and they fill it right there. And you're just about done with this basketball team. We'll kind of put when the transfer portal window, when the roster looks complete, I'll kind of give my thoughts on it as a whole. But this was a little bit of a hole in the roster, and they went and got Hunter Dean to help and fill it. All right, that's it for hour number 1 here on this Monday. Talked LSU and Auburn for the first 30 minutes of the show, and then Shea Dixon from 1-3 talking all things transfer portal. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube. You can always find our stuff there. I'm going to talk some SEC baseball coming up in 20 minutes. When we come back after SportsCenter, Mark Etheridge, part of D1 Baseball's SEC only package, is going to chat with us about the Southeastern Conference. So come back with us after SportsCenter.
Bayou Ford has $15,000 off plus 0.9% APR for 60 months on all new 22 Ford F-150 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah. You don't know what you're doing. Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you can run the slalom. The cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street.
there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Is SportsCenter. Hello there. I'm Mark Robbins. The NBA playoffs keep rolling along. Couple games on the schedule today. Starting in the East, you got Miami against the Knicks. Heat at home. They'll have a 2-1 series lead. In the Western Conference, Lakers will host Golden State Game 4 of that series. LA with a 2-1 series lead. And ESPN NBA insider Brian Windhorst believes the winner tonight's going to take the series. Here's why.
I think if the Lakers go up 3-1, I think they are a team that's strong enough that they won't lose 3 in a row. Well, that would be interesting in the LeBron-Steph wars. And I think the Warriors with home court 2-2, with the series potentially going to 7, I think that favors Golden State.
That's Brian Windhorst on Fitz and Harry a little earlier here on ESPN Radio. Lakers and Warriors on ESPN Radio with our coverage beginning 9:30 p.m. Eastern. All NBA rookie team. First team, Paolo Banchero of Orlando, Walker Kessler of Utah, Benedict Mathurin of the Pacers, Keegan Murray from Sacramento, and Jalen Williams from Oklahoma City. They are the first team All-NBA rookie squad.
Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do. Fortunately, Geico makes it easy to bundle your home and car insurance. It's a good thing, too, because having a home is hard work. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. Geico.com. Easy.
Now, Hunt Palmer. Hunt Palmer Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is on Palmer.
Hour 2 on this Monday, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Hope your work week is off to a good start. Hour 2, the show's off to a good start because we're headed out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. We're going to chat with Mark Etheridge. He teams up with Joe Healy, who you hear from on Thursdays on this program, for the SEC Extra package over on D1. Mark joins us now. Mark, how are you?
I'm great. We're getting ready for this stretch run of baseball.
We're just about there. You think they need to be sounding any alarms, any panic alarms here in Baton Rouge as the Tigers finally lose a series to Auburn?
Well, I mean, this is the SEC, and honestly, I think this is the best that SEC baseball has ever been. Just the difference from the middle of the league to the top is minimal, and middle to the bottom, I don't know, is there a bottom? I guess week to week we have one, but so to answer your question, no, everybody can lose. There's just not enough dominance, right? This isn't 15 years ago. But I do think that, you know, a lot has been made about finding someone to pitch when Paul Skeens isn't on the mound. And that's certainly the question that this week showed, especially Sunday. I mean, the first two pitchers don't record an out. I mean, you have to throw strikes, and they didn't. And, you know, contrast that to what Auburn did is they have guys, you know, in the two games they won who don't light up the radar gun, right? But they were around the plate and they made pitches, and it was more of a, you know, it was more of the old school kind of pitching, right? Where it's all about movement and location and not radar guns, and that worked this weekend for Auburn. It was a huge series win for them that really, you know, based on their last 2 weeks, has really turned their season around.
Yeah, they've certainly been better the last 3 weeks. There's no question about that. Yep. As far as LSU goes, I guess one question I wanted to ask you before we kind of start hitting the rest of the league is you've been looking at the SEC and college baseball for a long time. Where do you categorize Paul Skeens?
I don't remember seeing anyone with a combination of stuff, control or command, and just character. That usually guys are good at one or two of those three, and they're just okay at maybe the other one. But my goodness, he's got everything you want, right? From a clubhouse culture standpoint, from a just the best player. You know, when he takes the field, I mean, you can't miss him. I mean, he's the center of the game, and he's been doing this so consistently. No one goes out and strikes out double-digit guys and pitches deep into the game every week. If you look all throughout the league, the best pitchers in the conference, they have a dud, man. They have a day where they give up 6. They have a day where they you know, they're 70 pitches in the second inning or something like that, right? And they get pulled quickly. That hasn't happened with him. He's just different, and he's as good. You know, I've been doing this close to 30 years now. I haven't seen everybody all across the country, but in this league, I've seen them all, and probably since then. I mean, it's been a long time since somebody has just come in, especially as a transfer, as a new player in the league, to just come in and be this excellent consistently.
It's a good place to start for LSU. You got to figure some things out behind him, but when Skeens is on the mound, you got a pretty good chance to win the weekend. A team that won over the weekend was Kentucky, sweeping South Carolina. I did not predict that on Friday. In fact, I predicted the opposite, and the Cats went out there and scored a bunch of runs and beat up on a South Carolina team that's kind of limping to the finish line with some injuries. What was the bigger story for you, Kentucky showing up and getting the sweep or South Carolina getting swept?
I think Kentucky. I do think that their RPI has been really strong all year. They got to a great start in conference, and they kind of dipped, and I wondered, would they win another SEC series? Because their schedule has been so backloaded. And, boy, to come out and not only win the series but get the sweep, they're right back in the mix to host and maybe even be a top 8 seed at this point. Because we project the regionals at D1, and we've kind of been downgrading them because how tough the schedule goes. But honestly, if you can sweep South Carolina, you can play with anybody. So we're definitely going to rethink that in this week's projections and see where they land. As for South Carolina, certainly, they've been missing starters and key starters in their infield and their lineup, but they didn't pitch this weekend, and that's the concern for me. Is it's the same crew that went out there and swept Florida 3 weeks ago, and they've lost 2 series in a row. Auburn beat them too, and now they get swept by Kentucky, and it doesn't get any easier because they go to Arkansas next, and then they've got a Tennessee club that should have a lot to play for on the final weekend. So it's going to be a lot of fun, but South Carolina is definitely trending in the wrong direction.
Yeah, they hadn't won a series since I proclaimed them the best team in the SEC. That played really well here in Baton Rouge when I said that, and then they haven't won a series since. So, look, another team that I thought maybe one of the best teams in the SEC, but just hasn't quite put it together is Tennessee. They have a great weekend, and then they have not so great weekend, and they lose 2 out of 3 against Georgia over the weekend. What's your assessment of the Vols right now as far as being a title contender?
Well, if they can play at home, no problem. I mean, in conference games, they're 10-2 at home and 2-10 on the road.
I didn't know that.
So they have got to find a way to host. I think that's the deal. And to do that, though, they're going to have to win some road games, and that's the thing for them. I mean, they've got a tough series with that Kentucky team we just talked about, and then they finish at South Carolina. So if they were to win both of those series, maybe they can play their way and win some games in Hoover and potentially get one of those last host spots, which would be incredible for them. Because I don't like their chances on the road, honestly. It's just with how different that team behaves.
Arkansas sweeps Mississippi State. We'll talk about the Bulldogs here in a second. But what's your read on Arkansas as they got Brady Tygart back for the last couple of weeks, but had another big bullpen injury last week?
Yeah, I mean, the story of their year has been injuries and just guys stepping in and performing, kind of exceeding expectations. It really speaks to the culture and the program that Dave Van Horn has established there. Even when they lose key performers, there's a guy waiting in the wings who says, hey, I'm good enough to play, and they believe it. And I do think that this is not the most talented Arkansas team we've seen, but right now they may be playing better than anybody. It's hard to, especially as they start to get some of these injured guys back. That's a club that's really confident. I saw them a couple of weeks ago when they played A&M, and it's a team that's what is it? The sum of the parts.
Yep. The whole's greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah. Pieces. Yeah, it's really that kind of club, and they're a lot of fun to watch too. They really compete.
Mississippi State got swept again, as we mentioned, by Arkansas. They are tied for last in the conference again after a terrible year last year. I was listening to a Mississippi State baseball podcast earlier today, and they were kind of speculating about Chris Lemonis' future. I know he won a national championship 2 years ago, but the program's not doing very well right now. Does he have a tough couple of weeks in front of him?
Yeah. I mean, it basically comes down to the direction of the program. What is his plan to fix it, and can he convince the powers that be that this is a suitable plan? I mean, because that's where they are. Because this season's lost. Even if they slip into Hoover, I mean, they have to win the whole thing, and they're just not consistent enough to do that. So it's damage control now and giving some optics, because this weekend the optics were awful. They were sloppy. They just, Arkansas took it to them, and it was just it was bad. So they go to LSU, who's probably not real happy about their results from last weekend. It's not the ideal place to go, but they've got to find a way to win a game or two just to keep their coach. Because I do think, you remember how last year finished, where they just kind of lost out after winning a big series with Ole Miss. Well, here we go again. They won a series from Ole Miss and looked pretty good doing it, and really hasn't done anything since. And I think that's the problem I have. It's just where's the hope coming from? Right? it's a proud program that really enjoys baseball and puts a lot of financial backing to it, and to get this kind of product, it's definitely concerning.
Mark Etheridge is our guest, part of D1 Baseball's SEC Extra team. He and Joe Healy do an awesome job over there at D1. Mark, we'll briefly step outside the Southeastern Conference. We know what happened in Tuscaloosa with the Gaming Commission up there, and now Iowa had 2 players that did not play over the weekend, and I'm seeing reports that now the sports books in Iowa are looking into that. What do you know, and is it possible that we've got a little bit of a problem on our hands here?
Well, you can look at it a couple ways. One, you can look at it as the system is working, it's catching these things.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's some education that's going on, and until someone gets caught and there's some ramifications to it, people don't really believe it. And this will be a deterrent. I believe that, hey, Big Brother's watching you. You're not going to be able to get away with this stuff. And so there's an adjustment. Gambling has become such a bigger force in our sport, and everywhere you look, there's lines, it's just in the culture and fabric of our sport now, where it wasn't before. It was in the shadows, and so we're all have to adjust to this, because it's not going anywhere. There's too much money involved, so it's fascinating, and it's kind of distasteful at times, especially with what happened with Bohannon. I mean, you never want to think about a coach betting against his team if that's really what happens. So it's one of these things that's probably going to get worse before it gets better as this adjustment period continues.
Mark, really appreciate your time. Thanks.
Yep.
He is Mark Etheridge from D1 Baseball, part of the SEC Extra Package. Highway to Hoover is the podcast that he and Joe Healy do 2 times a week, and it is appointment listening for me. I love that stuff. Those guys are all over it. They can go through entire rosters. They are up to date on everything that goes on. It's a lot when they're playing, that many games every weekend. It's a lot to deal with, but they do an awesome job of getting it all put in front and center over there at D1 Baseball. So appreciate Mark for coming on. All right, the SEC did have 6 other series besides LSU and Auburn over the weekend. I'll get you caught up on all of it next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana loyal, elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. Dr. Robert Jackson, a champion of Louisiana. Dr. Jackson founded the MLK Health Center and Pharmacy in Shreveport. It is Northwest Louisiana's oldest free clinic and pharmacy. The clinic provides over $16 million in services to over 1,700 patients every single year. Clinics like the MLK Health Center and Pharmacy are essential to a state like Louisiana because we've got one of the highest uninsured rates in the country. The clinic operates at no expense to the patient. It returns an average of $25 to the community for every $1 that's invested in the center. Dr. Robert Jackson, truly a champion of Louisiana. If you know of a champion of Louisiana, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a business, whether it's just a person that's doing great philanthropic work in Louisiana, we want to tell their story, and LWCC allows us to do it. So go to lwcc.com/champions and nominate a potential champion of Louisiana. Dr. Robert Jackson, our champion of Louisiana, presented by LWCC.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated.
Charles Henniger for the Monday edition of Game Time. We're at Big Mike Sports Bar and Grill in Denham Springs, recapping all the weekend Kentucky Derby, LSU baseball, and NBA playoffs. It's right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So kind of a look back at the weekend that was in the Southeastern Conference on the baseball front. Look, I said on Friday that I thought Kentucky was a fraud. Thought they weren't going to win another SEC series the rest of the way. They had already lost 4 in a row. Thought they were going to lose their last 7. And then they swept South Carolina. So I was dead wrong. Look, Kentucky wins 7-3, 14-7, and 9-2. They got 38 hits over those 3 games, and they scored 30 runs. So South Carolina just didn't pitch it worth a flip. It's a Kentucky team that does not have a potent offense, does not have an explosive offense. They have an offense that nickel and dimes you, and they nickeled and dimed South Carolina to death. They had a couple home runs, but they just took it to them. And South Carolina really relies on hitting the ball out of the ballpark. Kentucky is usually a really good place to hit, but they just didn't do it over the weekend. So, look, South Carolina, since I proclaimed them the best team in the SEC, hadn't won a weekend yet. So that shows you what I know. They are struggling a little bit at this point in Kentucky with a huge series sweep of the Gamecocks. And now Kentucky was a team that I was talking about last week. Like, I don't know if they're going to get in the tournament. The RPI is great, but you lose 7 weekends in a row, like, you're not going to get in. Now their RPI is sitting there at 1, and hosting is very much in the possibility for Kentucky. That's how much a weekend can swing things when your RPI is that strong. There were a few interesting series. Georgia played Tennessee in Knoxville and in Athens and won 2 out of 3. As you heard Mark say, I didn't even realize this, but Tennessee is 10-2 at home in the league and 2-10 on the road. That's a remarkable contrast there. Look, Tennessee won game 1 12-3, and then in games 2 and 3, Tennessee scored 5 runs total in 2 games. Their offense just went in the deep freeze, and Charlie Condon, very quietly, is just having a monster freshman year for Georgia. He's got 22 homers as a freshman. And this goes back to what I was talking about with offense in college baseball. Ethan Petrie has already set South Carolina's freshman home run record. You've got the freshman home run record that has already fallen at Alabama. at this point. Charlie Condon's got Georgia. You got 3 freshman home run records that have been set this year. Charlie Condon, one of those. And that's just the way the sport has trended. It's just towards offense and towards guerrilla ball. But if you're Tennessee and you score 5 runs total the last 2 games, you're not gonna get much done. That's not gonna help. You having this fancy new bullpen weapon in Chase Burns that you can go to late in the game doesn't matter if you don't score. And they just didn't score against Georgia. So Georgia gets 2 out of 3 from the Vols. I thought the biggest series of the weekend was going to be Florida and Texas A&M in College Station, and the Aggies get 2 out of 3. Florida won the first one 6-5. Then A&M got all over them on Saturday in a 15-2 blowout. Sunday's game went to the 9th, tied at 2, and it was crazy. Brandon Neely, who's become Florida's closer, who's been really good, he hit the leadoff guy, which you absolutely can't do. Then he gave up a little flare single into right field to go first and third with nobody out. They allowed the steal to second base, and then Brandon Neely balked in the winning run with no outs in the 9th inning. He very clearly flinched. It was obvious, and the field umpire called the balk, and that was the difference in the game and the series, as those 2 teams had split the first 2, and then a balk plates the run for Texas A&M. So they beat Florida, who Florida had a chance to make a move there. Tennessee lost 2 out of 3 on the weekend. Vanderbilt lost 2 out of 3 on the weekend. South Carolina was swept on the weekend. All the teams up there towards the top of the East were backing up, and Florida had a chance to move up, and they didn't do it. They lost 2 out of 3 at Texas A&M. Big win on the weekend for the Aggies. Arkansas was at Mississippi State. This is a bigger conversation that we'll probably have down the road this week with somebody in Starkville. Maybe Stefan Krajnik will come on. But look, Arkansas sweeps Mississippi State. They scored 31 runs on 27 hits. I didn't see this, and so I can't back it up with my own 2 eyes, but I listened to Thunder and Lightning. It's a Mississippi State podcast on Sports Super Talk Mississippi. Brian Haydad's on there. And they said that Mississippi State over the weekend dropped 5 fly balls. I think some got lost in the sun or in the lights. I don't think they hit but they dropped 5 fly balls. And they're giving up 31 runs on 27. Listen to the last 2 weekends of Mississippi State baseball. Listen to these numbers. These are their run totals that they have allowed in their last 2 SEC weekends. Been swept in both of them. 8, 12, 13, 6, 14, 11. That is 64 runs over 6 games. That's more than 10 a game they are giving up in their last 6 league games. They are dangerously close to winning the first national championship in the history of the school and firing the coach that did it 2 years later. Last year, they were 9-21 in the league, and they're very likely going to be worse than that this year. I get it. Some injuries last year. Things happen. You have the hangover. One bad year can happen anywhere. This is not one bad year. This is a program that is tanking. And it's going to be an interesting discussion. They already made the pitching coach the scapegoat. Foxhall's been fired. Wasn't with him this week. Didn't help very much. And so clearly they're going to have to change things from a pitching perspective, but I'm not so sure Chris Lemonis is going to be able to fix this. It's possible, but he may not be given the opportunity. Because right now, Mississippi State, I mean, if you look at what they've done this year in league play, they come out of the gate and get swept at Kentucky. Then they welcome Vanderbilt and they get swept. So they're 0-6 right out of the chute. Then you lose 2 out of 3 to South Carolina. You beat Bama on the road in a weekend, and then you beat Ole Miss. So you had a couple of series wins, but then you go to Auburn and you can't get anybody out, and you lose 2 out of 3. And then you've gotten swept by Tennessee and Arkansas. They've been swept 4 times in 8 weekends. 4 times in 8 weekends they have been swept. And so you look up, and you've got 2 weekends to go, and Mississippi State is 6-18. So since they picked the trophy up in Omaha a couple of years ago, they have won 15 league games. They have lost 39. 15-39. And it's one of those deals like, yeah, man, you got the championship, and that's awesome. But in this sport, I think sometimes it's just a function of getting hot. Was it the coach pushing all the right buttons? Did he do some wonderful job? No. I think they just got rolling. And now he's been tasked with keeping this program afloat, and they're not. They got concrete shoes on. They're in last again. So this is going to be interesting in Starkville. I'm curious to get some perspective from that side of things and not just from the outside. But they're just not competitive. The games were not competitive over the weekend. Arkansas just punked them, and Mississippi State didn't swing back. You lose 6-2, 14-2, and 11-6. Things are really bad in Starkville, and we'll talk about them a lot this week because that's who LSU plays this weekend. But it's a bad situation in Starkville right now. Hunter Hines does have 22 home runs for him, which is a bright spot. But from the Arkansas perspective, Brady Tiger did start the game on Saturday, threw 2 shutout innings, only threw 20 pitches, but he's kind of moving back. And Arkansas, with the amount of injuries they've sustained, they need anything they can get. And so if Tiger can come back and help them a little bit, they will certainly take it. And he's now pitched 2 weekends in a row and done so pretty successfully. Vanderbilt at Alabama. That was obviously the wildest situation of the weekend because the news about Brad Bohannon broke right before they were going to play on Thursday night. But Bama wins 2 out of 3 against Vanderbilt. Here are Vanderbilt's run totals from the weekend against Alabama. 2, 4, 1. That is not very good offensively from the doors. They wasted Devin Futrell's awesome Game 3 start. He's the best Game 3 starter, I think, in the conference. I could say that Drew Beam over at Tennessee has been really good for them, but Futrell's been great. He goes 7 innings, just gives up 1 run on 4 hits, but offense didn't score. So Vanderbilt loses 2-1 to Bama in Game 3. Ole Miss at Missouri. Missouri wins 2 out of 3. They won the first 2. And then Game 3 came along, and boy, that was something. You want to talk about defying probability? I was watching that game in the 7th inning yesterday. Missouri, or it was on Saturday. Missouri it was the 7th inning. They had scored in every inning of the game. All 7 innings. And had homered in the last 5 innings. And they were losing. That doesn't happen very often. Scored in every inning for 7 innings and had homered 5 straight innings, and they were losing the game. Ole Miss beats them 20-14 in Game 3 in a game where Ole Miss's catcher hit 4 home runs. 4 homers in the game. First time that has ever been done in a conference game. It had happened 2 other times in league history. Vanderbilt had a guy do it. JJ, he was a first-round pick. The last name's escaping me. I think it starts with an S. But he did it, and then there was one guy in the 70s that did it, 4 homers, but no one had ever done it in a league game. And Ole Miss catcher got it done, 4 bombs. But the Rebels do fall 2 out of 3 to Missouri. So the path for Ole Miss to get to Hoover is a tough one because Ole Miss is tied with Mississippi State. They lost that series, and Missouri's a game in front of them, and they lost that series. So Ole Miss is going to have a better league record than Missouri and Mississippi State when the dust settles because they don't have the tiebreaker over either one of them. Now, Mississippi State is coming to Baton Rouge with this weekend, which is obviously a tough draw, and Ole Miss's schedule is, I would say, fairly favorable. It's better than coming to Baton Rouge like Mississippi State has to. They play Auburn at home, and then they're at Alabama. So neither of those 2 teams is awful, but it just doesn't look good for the Rebs, who are going to have to be a game clear of those 2 teams, and there's only 6 left to go. So I think that it's likely that your defending national champions are not in Hoover, which is 1, tough to do, and 2, not going to be great for the folks in Hoover because they like Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and LSU. Those are the teams that show up in Hoover, and if you knock a couple of those off, that's not great for the Chamber of Commerce over there in Northeast Alabama. All right. So that's your look around the Southeastern Conference. Did want to take a quick peek at the standings in SEC play because LSU, having lost a series, no longer in the lead in the SEC. Vanderbilt and Arkansas, both at 17-7, are in first place. LSU would be in third right now at 16-7, having not played a game. Florida is at 15-9. South Carolina is at 14-9. Kentucky is at 14-10. Tennessee is 12-12 in the league, as Mark mentioned, 2-10 on the road, 10-2 at home. That's nuts. Then you've got Auburn and A&M and Alabama at 11-13. Then you start to get towards the bottom of the league with Georgia at 10-14. Missouri at 7-17, and the two Mississippi schools, the defending national champions of college baseball. The last two are 6-18 in league play and fighting like heck to try to get to Hoover, Alabama. So wild, wild stuff. Take a timeout. Come back. We got 30 minutes left here on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is the website. Guys, Mother Day is coming up. Maybe you're a little scrambling. How about a new closet for the mother in your life? We'll help you out with it. David Duvall will tell you, if you tell him that the Hunt Palmer Show sent you, he's not going to charge you to rip out your current closet or the install of the new one. It's a simple process that David Duvall and his team go through with you on the closet side. They're going to come in. They're going to give you a questionnaire. They're going to say, okay, what do you have here? Okay, what do you need? And whether it's cubbies or lights or drawers or shelves or mirrors or whatever the case may be with you and your wardrobe, he will customize a closet to your exact needs. And I'll give you a great deal on it if you're a listener here of the Hunt Palmer Show. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website where they do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. Check out all their work at OneBathAndClosets.com.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come home, live Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Tuesday's OTB. LSU looking to bounce back in the midweek. Plus, latest from the NBA playoffs, as well as a little LSU football. Also, we got Nick Underhill coming on to talk Saints. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Every Monday, my baseball column goes up over on 3 on the Bengal Tigers website. It's called Around the Horn. I just kind of go through what we saw over the weekend. So that column is up there at the Bengal Tiger. But because I write that for them, I'm hanging out on their message boards a good bit. It's called the Ponderosa, and there's some great conversation and great information on there. Matthew Bruni talking about basketball stuff and some women's basketball transfer portal things. Billy Embody and Shay are all over the recruiting side and the transfer portal side. And that's why I wanted to have Shay on earlier and caught up with him back at 1:30, so you can catch that conversation on demand if you would like. But Shay's always dropping tidbits on the recruiting side of thing and the transfer portal side of thing. And I wanted to comment on some of the things that he was talking about today. If you want the full story and all the information, you can go to the Bengal Tiger over on the On3 network and subscribe. But he was talking about 3 names in the transfer portal for this football program, and I'll tell you what I think in terms of fit for all 3 of them. I made my case pretty clear on Logan Diggs, the former Notre Dame running back. I would take him every day and twice on Saturdays, I guess, as it were, because I think LSU has depth at running back. I don't know if the talent level is where I would like it to be. Maybe it is. I haven't seen everybody at full strength. I haven't seen the freshmen yet. Like, maybe they have more than I think, but coming off the season he had at Notre Dame where he was as productive as a back as they had, I feel like he adds to the room. I think LSU gets better if they can bring in Logan Diggs. And I think the indication is that he is going to end up at LSU. He's a Louisiana guy. He committed to Brian Kelly when he was at Notre Dame. I think there's a path to him playing. And I think if he were to join the team, he would eventually become the lead back. That's what I think of Logan Diggs. So I think that one makes a ton of sense. As far as Louisiana Lafayette cornerback Trey Amos goes, he has visited LSU. Alabama is hot on his heels as well. He's looking that direction. I think Oklahoma, Oregon, and Illinois, as Shay said, are teams to look at as well. Look, I thought the export class from Louisiana Lafayette last year was pretty impressive. I thought that Mekhi Garner was a good player for LSU. I think Kyron Lacey's got a chance to be a pretty good player as well. And you saw what Osiris Torrance did at Florida. He was as good a guard as there was in the Southeastern Conference. And so there were some really good players over at ULL. And I think Amos is a pretty good one. And LSU is a little bit thin in terms of the secondary, specifically at safety, but they're a little bit thin. And so I would take anybody that they could get that has the ability to play in the SEC. You're going to rely on a lot of transfers, a lot of new guys, and some freshmen in that role. I think Amos is a guy that I would take. And quite frankly, if it means that you add him and Alabama doesn't, that's double bonus, because that's a team that you're going to be fighting a pretty strong battle with come early November. So I think if Alabama's in the mix here, if LSU can land him, I think that's a double win. You win by getting him on your team, and you win by Alabama not getting him on their team. So hopefully another kid that's got Louisiana ties over at Louisiana Lafayette will hang around and will go to LSU instead of Alabama. I think that one does work from a fit perspective. Michigan State wide receiver Keon Coleman is a really talented dude. He led Mississippi State in receiving yards last year. He's 6'4". He's a great high school basketball player. He's a super athlete, and he's been productive at the college level. But I'm not sure it makes a lot of sense if he comes to LSU. And if you were listening to the interview we did with Shay an hour ago, every indication that he gave is the same way that I feel about Keon Coleman. Could he play at LSU? Absolutely. Is it a great spot for him? I don't think so. Look at that receiver room. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Aaron Anderson, Kyron Lacey. You've got so many players. I didn't even mention Chris Hilton, Landon Ibieta. You're bringing in Kyle Parker and Jalen Brown, bringing in Five-Shard and Shelton Sampson. Like, you got 8 guys. There's a reason Jack Besh left. There's so many guys in that room, and it's not like in the running back room where you've got a lot of unproven stuff. Malik Neighbors is a 1,000-yard receiver. Brian Thomas making big catches against Florida and Alabama. Kyron Lacey's been in college for 3 years. Like, these are some pretty proven commodities and some precocious young talents that we're bringing in. They've got size on the outside. They've got speed and athleticism. Like, I don't see a hole in that room. And while Keon Coleman could absolutely play in the SEC, and he's got ties to South Louisiana being from Opelousas, and I'm sure he wants to get out of East Lansing, Michigan. I just don't know that it makes a lot of sense for him to come to LSU because I don't know if he's going to play. So I'm all in on bringing in Logan Diggs. I think bringing in another corner in Trey Amos is a really good idea. I don't see the need or the fit at wide receiver. You're going to have a guy come in here, play 10% of the snaps. Some guys are wired that they don't even see competition. It's just like, get me in there, I'll win the job. And that's great if you feel that way. But most people analyze the situation before you join it. And if you're the leading receiver at Michigan State, do you really want to come be the fifth guy at LSU? Do you want to run that risk? Because it's there. I just don't know that it makes a ton of sense. If LSU adds Keon Coleman and he commits to LSU, I'll say, great, another talented guy. We'll take him. It's the old Charlie Hanniger talking about the Trent Johnson teams. It beats an empty chair. You got 5 scholarships open. A player is better than no player. But it just doesn't seem to me to be a great fit because of LSU's roster composition at the moment, which is just loaded with wide receivers. And some of them are going to be around for a little bit. So, in on Diggs, in on Amos, Coleman. I don't necessarily see the fit there. That's just my opinion. But maybe get your thoughts in it over on the Bayou Ford chat on our YouTube page. Hope your work week's off to a good start on this Monday. We're going to take another time out. When we come back, we'll play some Take It or Leave It, and we will get on down the road. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you can run the slalom. And cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary. For those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside off the bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Sandgrove, join us for the Tuesday edition of Handy Time. Dwayne Colucci from the South Point and the Rampart in Las Vegas joins us. Handy Time, noon weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, winding things down here on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Let's play some Take It or Leave It.
Alrighty. Suns owner Matt Ishbia? I'm not sure. Ishbia, yeah. Anyway, the Suns owner said that Nikola Jokic shouldn't be suspended for pushing him on Sunday. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. Yeah, that's good. Look, that can get a little dicey. Jokic goes into the crowd, and the owner's there, and they're looking for the ball, and then you get a little elbow. There was no chance of any injury here. It was not like a ruthlessly intended elbow, but he did push a guy, and they don't really want you to do that. It just happened to be the owner of the Suns. But I can't have guys, especially the MVP of the league the last 2 years, missing a massive playoff game because of a little bit of an incident there. Cooler heads got to prevail. We got to keep the good players on the floor. So, look, when I saw it, I went, oh, man, they might have to do something about that in this day and age, but I'm glad that it doesn't appear that they're going to. So I was watching that game yesterday, and Jokic, the amount of skill he has is just absurd because he's not moving faster than everyone else out there. He's not jumping higher than everybody else out there. He's just – his eyes and hand-eye coordination, it's fascinating to watch him play. And I feel like every time he shoots from inside 10 feet, it's going to go in, and it just about does every time. He's a freak.
Wilson Contreras makes his return to Wrigley as a member of the Cardinals. He'll be booed. Take it or leave it.
I will leave it. Look, I love my 2016 Cubs. They're my guys. Dexter Fowler signed with the Cardinals. Still loved him. Rizzo's with the Yankees. KB is now in Colorado. Javi's in Detroit. Like, these are my guys. I love them. The Cubs made no effort to bring Wilson Contreras back. So in that way, he's still perfectly fine in my eyes because the Cubs didn't want him because they didn't like the way he caught defensively and didn't want to pay him. However, Wilson did say that St. Louis is a better organization and said, he was very happy to be there. And I think that he can complement his current team that he signed a long-term contract with without taking shots at the Cubs, which irritated me just a little bit. But still, the fact remains, he was with the Cubs and the organization for over 10 years. He had huge hits in the World Series. He was the heart and soul of the team once they tore it down. I was thrilled I got to see him hit a two-run homer to win a game in August last year in the 8th. He's always a 16 guy, so I'm always going to love him. But the comments, they hurt a little bit. But I don't think he's going to get booed tonight. I think he's going to get a standing ovation tonight in his first at-bat, and as he should.
Yeah, I think in the last, like with Rizzo and Mize, I don't think they got booed. So I would expect
No, but they didn't say positive things about the Cardinals when they left.
Yeah.
That's where you start to cross the line with Cubs fans. You can't be pumping up the Cardinals too much and taking shots at the Cubs when you leave.
That's true. All right, former Tiger Tari Eason was named second-team All-Rookie in the NBA. Eason will play for 10 years. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, I'll take that. I think he will. He's got an NBA style of game. He's big, strong, fast, plays in the open floor. He continues to improve that jump shot that got a lot better when he was at LSU, and he still shot it pretty good this year. If he continue to do that, that's the key to some longevity because some of those other skills can deteriorate with your athleticism and all that kind of stuff. But if you can knock down shots and play some defense, you can stick around. So, yeah, I think he'll play for 10 years.
The King's coronation in England is must-see TV. Take it or leave it.
I believe that. Look, I'm a weird guy. I watch LSU practice baseball in the fall. That's a stupid thing to do objectively. Like, why would anyone go out there and do that? I do stupid stuff. Like, that is, and so what people like, they can like. You want to be all about, one thing or another, have at it. It's your life. But I don't understand watching the royal family do stuff. Like, that doesn't, who cares? Obviously, the people in England care. They love that they've had this monarchy for centuries and centuries. I'm not watching the King's coronation. I don't even know what the King's name is, quite frankly. Charles,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. I had like a 50-50 shot there and threw it in. But that's not where I'm going to be spending some of my time.
Our last one here. Tiger Woods' ex-girlfriend has filed court documents stating he broke up with her after telling her they were going on vacation through his lawyer. Tiger sucks at relationships. Take it or leave it.
Well, I mean, you got to take that.
I'll take it.
We've got a pretty long track record here of poor performance. But look, that's not totally shocking. He's always been a little bit odd, just a little bit odd. And I think when you reach that level of something, to be perfectly socially adjusted may be pretty rare. Incredible player, the best who's ever lived. Not super awesome at the whole relationship thing. I think that's fair to say. But he can play some golf, and I don't know that we're going to see that very much longer. So I had not seen that story, but it's not totally shocking. It's just a couple of ticks from it's a Seinfeld line where Elaine goes, Kramer, I think you're a couple of ticks away from a normal relationship. That may be where Tiger is, but onward. All right, that'll do it here for a Monday show on the Hunt Palmer Show. If you missed any of the show, you can always catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab. All of our shows are listed there, and all the sound is archived every single day at 1045ESPN.com. If you prefer to go the Apple Podcast route, the Spotify route, the Google route, you can find our stuff right there as well. Just search for the Hunt Palmer Show. We appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, rate, review on YouTube. Subscribe button's right under the video feed right there. If you'd hit that, all our content will filter right to your fingertips, and that gets our content in front of as many people as possible, which is ultimately the goal around here. So if you give us some help with that, we'd appreciate it. I gave my thoughts on LSU and Auburn for the first 30 minutes of the show. The positives, the negatives, the time to sound the panic alarm, all that jazz in the first 30 minutes of the show. LSU does have issues on the pitching staff, but I think there were some other issues this weekend that it kind of cropped up. Plus, there was some really good stuff this weekend that maybe gets swept under the rug when you lose your first series of the weekend. So, first 30 minutes on LSU and Auburn. Shea Dixon from 1-3 joined us at 1:30 to talk transfer portal and kind of where LSU is in the roster composition cycle that seemingly never ends. They got about 5 spots left, and Shea gave us kind of a timeline and some names to look at with LSU and the portal. LSU basketball completed its roster for next year with the addition of Hunter Dean from George Washington. I gave you kind of my scouting report on Dean at the end of hour number 1. He'll be a big and probably come off the bench, but I gave some more in-depth thoughts at 1:45. Mark Etheridge, he of the SEC Extra Package on D1 Baseball, joined us to talk all things SEC baseball at 2 o'clock, and I gave my reactions to the goings-on in the Southeastern Conference over the weekend. 4-home run day for Calvin Harris and Ole Miss. Major sweep with Kentucky over South Carolina. So some good nuggets in there. And then my thoughts on the LSU transfer portal at 2:30 before a little bit of take it or leave it. Tomorrow's show, we're going to have Glenn West talking Tigers. Going to have Sharif Ishak talking Saints. Schedule release coming up later this week. So we'll get Sharif's thoughts on all of that. Jimmy Ott's Game Time coming to you tonight from 6 to 8. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. It's 1 to 3 every single weekday. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.